13 survived. That's the sentence the country settled on. Then it stopped asking questions. Behind that number is one survivor who lost the use of his legs, one who lost the use of his voice, one who came back and discovered the empty seats in the dressing room hurt more than the broken bones. The crash lasted seconds. What was left took years. Ryan Straschnitzki was 18 years old. He was in the middle of the bus, on the left side of the aisle, texting his girlfriend when he heard a scream from the front. The next thing he remembers is waking up on the snow with his back against the semi-truck, watching his teammates lying in front of him, unable to feel his legs. Defenseman from Airdrie, Alberta. The diagnosis at Foothills Medical Center in Calgary was permanent. Spinal cord injury at T11. Paralyzed from the chest down. His parents, Tom and Michelle, were told there was a better than average chance he would never walk again, possibly never play hockey again. His response to his father, 2 days into his hospital stay, "Dad, Olympic sledge hockey. I'll get us the gold." That sentence is the entire story of the first year. He started rehabilitation almost immediately. Sit in the wheelchair longer, build core muscles he could still use, learn what his body could do now and stop measuring it against what it used to. Rehabilitation for a T11 spinal cord injury is not a montage. It is months of relearning how to balance sitting upright, how to transfer from a bed to a chair without anyone catching you, how to navigate a doorway, a curb, a parking lot. Things that used to take no thought now took everything. He worked with physiotherapist Christian Cry at the Foothills Rehab Unit. She has said the thing she remembers most about him is that he never gave up. Not once. Not on the hardest days. The mental wall arrived later, in private. He has talked about survivor's remorse, running through where everyone was sitting on the bus, asking himself what would have happened if he had been a few seats forward. Sledge hockey came next, not as therapy, as a sport. He started training within months. By the fall of 2018, he was on the ice in Colorado playing a sledge hockey scrimmage at the University of Denver alongside Jacob Wasserman, another paralyzed survivor. Standing ovation from a crowd that had no idea what they were watching, only that they were watching it happen. Then he kept going. He flew to Thailand for an experimental epidural stimulator surgery, one of the first patients of his age to attempt it. He launched the Straz Strong Foundation to help others with disabilities access adaptive sports and rehabilitation. In February 2025, he received the King Charles III Coronation Medal for his work in the community. In July 2023, he made a decision most people wouldn't have predicted. He shifted his Paralympic ambitions from sled hockey to wheelchair basketball, with his eyes on Los Angeles 2028. A Regina production company spent 8 months filming him. The results? A 6-part documentary series called We Were Broncos premiered on AMI in May 2025. Here's the detail most people miss. Ryan didn't just rebuild his own life. He spent years pushing the system that broke it. He spoke at hearings on truck driver training. He used his platform to talk about the regulatory gaps that put a driver with 3 weeks of supervised experience on a Saskatchewan highway. He didn't make it loud, he made it persistent. When he gets asked the question he gets asked most, "Do you ever get angry?" his answer is consistent. Anger, he says, doesn't help him sit up longer. It doesn't help him shoot. It doesn't help anyone else who's going to end up in a wheelchair next year and the year after. Ryan found his new identity through sport. Morgan Gobeil had to find his way back to something more basic than that. Morgan Gobeil was a defenseman from Humboldt. The crash gave him a traumatic brain injury, multiple skull fractures, 3 facial fractures, broken ribs, and lacerations to his liver and spleen. He couldn't speak. He couldn't walk. He spent 333 days in Saskatoon City Hospital. That number gets repeated in coverage. It's a clean, headline-friendly figure. It doesn't capture what 333 days actually looks like. It looks like 333 mornings of physical therapy, hours of occupational therapy, speech therapy for a young man who could not yet form a word, multiple surgeries, watching the ward window cycle through 4 full seasons. His parents, Pam and Lonnie Gobeil, spent every day at the hospital with him. Their critical care insurance ran out in September 2018. Pam later told the court, in a victim impact statement, that there had not been a single day since the crash without anxiety, sadness, or anger, often all 3 at once. The Gobeil family made a decision early. The world outside the hospital was going to keep moving whether Morgan was in it or not. Birthdays would happen. His brother's wedding would happen. His high school graduation would happen. They decided those milestones were not going to wait, so they brought them inside. He graduated from high school from his hospital room. He turned 19 in the ward. His brother's wedding was celebrated where Morgan could be present. Several holidays passed inside those walls. The Believe sign that Broncos assistant coach Chris Beaudry brought to the hospital in the days after the crash stayed up the entire time. Beaudry's intention was that the sign would only leave when the last player did. On March 4th, 2019, it left with Morgan. He still couldn't walk. He still couldn't talk. The family released a statement through the Saskatchewan Health Authority. They were proud of 333 days of extremely hard work. They remained hopeful that walking and speaking would be milestones to celebrate someday. They didn't promise it. They asked for privacy. Brain injury recovery is the kind of recovery that doesn't photograph well. There's no before and after that fits into a 30-second news segment. Progress is measured in millimeters. A flicker of a finger, a sound that approximates a word, a second of eye contact held longer than the second before. Most of it happens in rooms nobody is filming. The Gobeil family has stayed mostly out of public view since. They have not done the speaking circuit. They haven't written a book. They haven't built a foundation in his name. What they have done, quietly and consistently, is keep working. Morgan continued therapy as an outpatient at Saskatoon City Hospital. The family has spoken occasionally, almost always to thank the people who helped, almost never to draw attention. There is no clean update to give you. That's not because nothing has happened. It's because the Gobeils decided, and have continued to decide, that Morgan's recovery is not a public story. Every once in a while, a teammate or a family friend will post a photo, and he is upright. He's smiling. He is somewhere he wasn't a year ago. That is the update. Recovery, when the endpoint isn't a return to before, becomes something different. It stops being about getting back. It starts being about what's possible from here. The Gobeils figured that out a long time before most people watching ever had to. That restraint is its own kind of strength. There's no rule that says survivors owe the public a story. Some recoveries belong to the people doing them, not to the people watching. Morgan's battle has been almost entirely private. Tyler Smith was the opposite. He came back under the lights, in front of everyone, and discovered that it was its own kind of trauma. Tyler Smith was 19, from Leduc, Alberta. His list of injuries from the crash reads like 4 separate accidents. A stroke, a broken collarbone that required surgery and caused severe nerve damage in his left arm, a broken shoulder blade, a punctured lung, 2 broken ribs, 6 inches of his small intestine were removed. He woke up 4 days later. He spent 13 days in the hospital. He has no memory of the crash itself, which he has called a blessing in disguise. His physical recovery was the part everyone could see. He treated it the way an athlete treats an injury. Head down, work boots on, do the rehab, get back on the ice. He believed, like a lot of 19-year-olds believe, that if his body healed, the rest would follow. That fall, he returned to the Humboldt Broncos for the 2018-19 season. Same arena, same logo, same billet family. Paul and Nancy Jefferson, who had hosted him before the crash. The body held up. He played 10 games. The dressing room is what got him. The seats, the empty stalls where teammates used to sit. The bus ride to away games on a road system that now meant something different. The faces that should have been there and weren't. He was returning to all these environments and all these places and he wasn't seeing the faces he wanted to see. He kept it to himself. He stayed busy. He told himself that the distraction was the same thing as healing. The night he decided to leave, he said goodbye to his billet mom, Nancy. She made him promise to get help. He told her he didn't need help. He was fine. She told him she could see he wasn't. She told him she wanted Ty back. That was the moment, he has said since, when he understood he was not fine. He went home to the Leduc and started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma. The framing matters here. Tyler Smith coming back to play and walking away after 10 games is not a failure of recovery. It is recovery. It's the most honest move any of the survivors made in public. He tried the thing that was supposed to fix it, found out it didn't, and said so out loud. Survivor's guilt is not a side effect of trauma. For people in his position, it is the trauma. He has said he will never understand why he lived. He has put it more directly than that, in his own words. There are a lot of guys, he has said, who have to live with the pictures in their minds. That's something he would never wish on anybody. The mercy of having no memory of April 6, 2018 is also the weight of it. He can't grieve what he can't remember. He grieves it anyway. Since stepping away from hockey, he built something different. He founded Not Alone Co., a mental health awareness clothing line, because nobody had built a roadmap for him and he wanted to exist for the next person. He co-hosts the Bromance podcast with Dylan Playfair of Letterkenny. In 2023, with his partner Kat Kastner, he won Season 9 of The Amazing Race Canada, paying tribute throughout to what he calls his 16 angels. He travels the country now as a public speaker, mostly on men's mental health. The audience is usually teenagers and young men who are exactly the demographic that doesn't talk about this. He shows up because nobody showed up for him in the way he needed. 3 survivors, 3 completely different roads. The thing they share is not what you'd expect. None of them got to choose when to stop grieving. The country moved on within a season. The hockey sticks came off the porches, the hashtags faded, the cameras packed up after the first anniversary and only came back in April. Ryan, Morgan, and Tyler did not get that schedule. Neither did the 10 other survivors who didn't make it into this video. Some of them have returned to hockey, some of them have not watched a game since. Some speak publicly, some have asked gently to be left alone. The Humboldt Broncos Memorial Fund still exists. It still distributes support to the families and survivors who need it. It is one of the few structures that did not fade with the news cycle. Every other support system the 13 have leaned on, they built themselves or their families have built for them. The country gave the money once. The work of using it has lasted years. 13 people, 13 different versions of survival. The word itself is the problem. Survivor puts the crash at the center of who they are. Each of these men has spent the years since trying to build a life where it isn't. Ryan trains for Los Angeles 2028. Morgan does therapy his family will not televise. Tyler stands in front of the high school gymnasiums and says the words he wishes someone else had said to him. The crash lasted seconds. The aftermath is still being lived. If their story stayed with you, subscribe to Skates and Scars. Every story cuts beneath the surface of the game. If you want to support the channel, hit the super thanks below. Each one goes directly into the next story. And before you go, the next one is a story most people think they know. They don't. See you there.